Gran Turismo 7 Review, Part 4. Why do we need 4 parts? Because it's an evolving game and it's changed a lot since Part 3, which was November 2022. Now I've got to cover all the updates from then to November 2023. A whole year of stuff that has changed Gran Turismo 7 from a game that had problems to a game that has less problems. This is not just the story of 1 year of updates for a game. It's a chapter in a 25-year story, so I'll give you a refresher. 26 years ago, there was a game called Gran Turismo, and when it was released, the world had seen nothing like it before. A game about driving, racing, collecting and tuning 140 real cars. The effort to make it certainly paid off, as it sold 10 million copies and launched a franchise. 2 years later, GT2 built off of GT's foundations, refined its physics further, tripled the track count, and increased the car roster to over 610. It was perfected on the PS1, but the PS2 came along and it was time to boot things into a new generation, and that's what Gran Turismo 3 did. A technological breakthrough, genre-defining, a game of exemplary quality that was universally beloved. It became the best-selling PlayStation 2 exclusive of all time. After 3 super massive hits, Gran Turismo had become the driving game by which all other driving games are measured. And while the world waited for the very ambitious 4th installment, there were 2 spin-offs. But when Gran Turismo 4 did come out, a year after its prologue, it was everything one could have hoped for in a car game, besides a few exotic brands and drag racing and... Well, either way, it was enormous, and it was the undisputed king of driving games in 2005, followed up in 2006 by the undisputed king of motorcycle games, and Polyphony Digital hasn't touched motorbikes since for some reason. In December 2007 in Japan and mid-2008 for the rest of the world, coinciding with the 10th anniversary of Gran Turismo, was GT5 Prologue, a glimpse of the full HD future. After several delays, GT5 was released in 2010. It was enormous, as you can see here. Look at the thickness of that book. That's not relevant. A huge game, 1,000 cars. 1 quarter were new and photoreal, the other 3 quarters were pulled straight from Gran Turismo PSP. Some of the models were up to 12 years old when they reappeared in GT6. Of course, it had new things like Bathurst and the ability to drive on the moon, but it was a showcase of all the good old Gran Turismo content you loved that there was no time to update, so it was all burned to the ground for Gran Turismo Sport. Besides the content cull, there was a pivot away from simulation gaming to competitive online multiplayer. The game still had some single-player content, but it was structureless, tainted. The car RPG became the car daily login roulette wheel. And the return to numbers with Gran Turismo 7 was supposed to be the return of the king of driving games, celebrating its 25th anniversary a little bit early. GT7 was marketed as a celebration of past, present and future. What this means is that it continues GT Sport's esports focus and mandatory permanent internet connection, unfortunately, but for those alienated by GT Sport, the cafe menu books are here to provide an experience reminiscent of older Gran Turismo campaigns, guiding you through from your first car to the B license, then the A license, and then the game abruptly ends because despite there being 3 more licenses, it was only made to have a very short guided experience for a campaign, just long enough for day 1 reviewers or casual players. Unfortunately, for an enthusiast like myself who absolutely loves the driving experience and keeps coming back to GT7 to drive more, the 100+ track variations and nearly 500 cars are severely underutilised. It's great fun to time trial, although I'm still waiting for better time of day and weather options for time trial. It's really just been hard to watch a Gran Turismo with so many cars and tracks not make a good game from them. The game design is just so far behind the content. And yet, I still have some hope, because 2023 was a pretty good year for Gran Turismo 7. It changed in many ways, which I am going to go through now in Gran Turismo 7 Review, Part 4. No, Episode 4. GT7 Review, Episode 4. Renewed Hope? It's a Star Wars pun. Let's start with November 2022, the 25th anniversary content update. Celebratory lighting and fireworks and a hot air balloon, and even a message from Sarah that isn't "take a deep breath and try again." Why, it's the limited time 25th anniversary one-make race for Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak cars at Big Willow. A crazy combination, and crazier still to think that we've gone from having this one comically overpowered car in single-player Gran Turismo to an esports event where people, at great expense, were flown to Monaco to race this around in a room, and now players can do the same for some credits. But there's better news. You can now sell your cars. Praise be! This is important. "Hello, Snake of Bacon, and welcome to the purchasing department," said Andy. "Ah, thank you, Andy. Hello to you too. Let's get right down to business. I've got some Honda NSX Group B rally cars for you, and I'll take any price." Now, why do I have so many? I can't tell you, but the purchasing department planned for this. You can only sell one copy of each car per day. So if you happen to have a whole lot of one, it'll take you a while to sell them. It says here, our valuations are subject to daily changes and will depend on mileage, tuning, and market trends. In my experience, mileage makes no or almost no difference to a car's value. Tuning does affect a car's price. They pay you less than 10% of what the tuning's worth. Market trends, I don't see how that could be right. The market trends are set by a virtual dice roll, it seems. But either way, the car's prices are saved online. They're the same prices for every player, and they vary between 1/3 and 2/3 of a car's sale price. So you can wait for a car to go up to about 60% of its full value before you sell it, if you want to really play the market. Which can be fun, just don't sell your engine swapped cars. It's really not worth it. I'm very pleased with the system. I turned some duplicate cars into 4.6 million credits on the first day of using it, and that is good. Now, while we're at the used car dealership, added this month, the Silvia K's S14. Now hold on, you may say, wasn't an S14 Silvia K's added a few months ago? Yes, but that's an early model or Zenki, and it's a Type S, whereas this is a later model or Koki with a very angry face and a different hood, and it's an aero, so it's got a larger rear wing. It drives just the same as the other S14 Silvia, and all Silvias are wonderful cars to go drifting in, and I really like its angry face. Also, I had no idea there was club music playing at Dragon Trail Gardens until now. The second car added is the Ford Sierra RS 500 Cosworth, making its Gran Turismo debut. A very worthy addition, and a stunning piece of car culture from the days of homologation specials. In the 80s, Ford wanted to see if they could dominate touring car racing by throwing money at it, because it worked in the 60s at Le Mans. So they buy lots of engines from Cosworth in the UK, send them over to Genk, Belgium, where the Sierra is built. They give it a wild body and stuff the engine in, and they make thousands of them, and then send 500 of them back to the UK to be worked on by Aston Martin Tickford into Sierra RS 500 Cosworths. And then, now that the RS 500 is homologated, it goes on to win touring car races in Germany, Japan, Australia, everywhere. It's the road car that made the race car legal that's featured here in GT7, and is racing on this month's new track, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Oh, it's become a Mustang now. Road Atlanta features a full 24-hour day-night cycle in GT7, unlike many other locations, but it doesn't have rain. None of the American courses have rain, as of yet. What Road Atlanta does feature is a twisty downhill bit. And that was that there. It's got other corners too. It's part of the IMSA Sports Car Championship, specifically part of the Michelin Endurance Cup. It hosts the Petit Le Mans, the final endurance race of the season. And I mention this because all three of the real-world tracks added to GT7 have been hosts of the Michelin Endurance Cup. Daytona, Watkins Glen, and Road Atlanta. So I'd expect at some point Sebring would be added. Maybe Indianapolis, that was only added to the Endurance Cup for 2024, but either way, in 2023, no other IMSA tracks were added, but I would expect that to happen some point in the future. Maybe. I don't know. Why speculate now? Let's move on to the next car. The 2018 BMW M2 competition is the first new M car of the 21st century to come to Gran Turismo since the M4 came to GT6 in December 2013. Unless you want to count the remodeling of the E46 M3 in 2019. Either way, if you wanted modern BMW cars, Gran Turismo has not been the game for you for quite a while. A lot of that probably comes down to marketing deals. The BMW M2 Coupe was unveiled in Need for Speed and was exclusive to Need for Speed 2015 for a time. Anyway, this new-ish BMW that's already out of production is pretty in Gran Turismo and features functional indicators, which you don't often see on BMW sedans in real life, and it can also honk. It has 4 exhaust tips and all the power you need to make donuts. It's not the very top of the 2 Series range because there was also an M2 CS, and it's since been replaced by a second generation M2 that's even faster than that and has really big square air intake jowls. It's a hideous looking car, but I hope to see it in Gran Turismo before Avatar 4 comes out, by which time it already will have been replaced twice more with an electric M2 or something. This update also added some more car collection menus, where as a reward for buying cars you get to see a beautiful cutscene and you get a ticket. Like this one for GTRs that conspicuously doesn't feature the R33. It's quite sad, really. I like the Renault scenes though, this is absolutely beautiful. Appreciate the R5 Turbo, it is a wonderful car. Look at these seats. Look at that Gordini. Or look at this instead. At Road Atlanta they added 3 events and one of them's a half-hour endurance race, because the game needs more decent events. I don't know why they had to make it pay significantly less than a much easier half-hour race. I think they're doing this on purpose. It's amazing, you keep adding events that pay less than the previous ones, and you keep increasing the price of the McLarens, and everybody wins. On the plus side, November 2022 was the first time I was able to buy a Corolla 11 in red, like my first car in Gran Turismo 3. GT7 makes it very hard to get used cars in the colours you want them in. I'm not defending it, I'm just saying the system is how it is. Stock up on red AE86s when you can. They also added new fanfares. Interesting. They also had a special promotion for sport mode, so I dipped my toe back in. And yes, it's just as bad as always, maybe even worse. I don't know. Maybe that was just one very bad start, but I'm still not a big fan of sport mode, but I did play because for a short time they were offering 5 times the payouts. I got 50,000 for losing instead of 10,000, which is what I make every 2 minutes at the Le Mans grind. And now the most specially presented gift car I've ever seen. Wow. For the 25th anniversary, a limited time exclusive 25th anniversary liveried Red Bull X 2019. Well, that saves me 3 million credits. PD thanks me for my support, and I thank you for this wonderful presentation. It's almost better than the car. Alright, that's all for November. The end of this section. Whoa! The December 2022 content update. Oh, you know it's Christmas because we've got a returning classic Gran Turismo car. The ST205 Celica GT4 rally car of 1995. It's a returning premium model from GT5 and 6, and one of very few that have been added in updates. It really makes the case for more. Look how good this looks! And this is based on a 3D model made in 2010 or before, with just a couple of new shaders. But anyway, it's an iconic car, famous for being banned from the WRC and also appearing in Sega Rally and other things. It's been placed in Group B in GT7 for whatever reason, so throw a low RPM turbo in it to match the other Group B cars, or throw something bigger in it if you want an 800 horsepower Celica. However much power you put in it, it is a joy to throw around. I welcome any classic rally cars. Though if you are going to put them in Group B, wouldn't it be better to add Group B rally cars, Gran Turismo? Can't you just give us a premium Lancia Delta S4? Or if you're going to make Group A, just make a Group A and give us an Evo and Colin McRae's Subaru. Anyway, why complain? This is beautiful. Top stuff. Love the Celica. Now we have to move on to other cars, like the Bugatti Chiron. Now careening off the course because it is a 2-ton whale and somewhat hard to drive. The difficulty is mainly that you do a lot more braking than you'd expect because it just eats straights. They disappear behind its 1,400 and something horsepower. It's got enough power. More than enough power. It is the last word in internal combustion engine powered decadence. There will never be another car like the Chiron. There will be cars of similar shape that are even heavier and even more powerful, but they will be electric. I like the interior, but I especially like looking out the back window at the active rear wing. And of course I love the throaty sound. To hear the swan song of the 8-litre quad-turbo dual-overhead camshaft 64-valve W16. Big numbers. It's not a relevant car to any ordinary person. Post Malone has one, but I will never sit in a Chiron. I can just appreciate the crazy engineering that somehow produced a car that makes the Veyron seem slow. And it's about time it showed up in Gran Turismo since the Bugatti VGT sort of previewed its look 5 years before. And now, it's the C8 Corvette. It's the base model 2020 Stingray, with its unusual cluster of buttons. It's got a head-up display, a funny shaped wheel. Oh, and of course the engine is in the back. Look at it. Wow. The bargain supercar is more supercar than ever, and in Australia costs less than a third of a Ferrari 296, but still more than 4 new MX-5s. Here in GT7 you'll find it useful for grinding at Tokyo. And look at those sequential indicators. One small problem though is that one of the updates just before December, can't remember which one anymore now, changed the penalty system on this race. While you won't get time penalties for brushing the walls anymore, you also won't get a 50% bonus unless you don't touch a single car. Back onto those cars, the fourth car in this update is the Alfa Romeo Giulia GT-A-M. Oh, beautiful. The Alfa Romeo Giulia is a very pretty car. The GTA has a lot of room. It's got the same V6 as the Giulia Quadrifoglio, but sticking true to Gran Turismo Alleggerita, it has a bit more power, and of course the car is lighter and stiffer. But the GTA M for Modificato is for someone who wants a sensible 4-door car that actually only has 2 seats and a roll cage and isn't sensible in any way, shape or form. It's just very alpha. Last and least, the 5th car was actually released first through an early access ticket system. It's the Ferrari Vision Gran Turismo. This gleaming silver spaceship is very fast, because it's a Ferrari, and because it's based on their 499p Le Mans hypercar with the V6. How boring. It is also, for whatever reason, classed as a road car, so you can do things like this. Is that right? Should a racing car that comes with its own unique racing suit and racing medium tyres and has well over 1,000 horsepower and ridiculous downforce be classed as a road car? Probably not. I didn't really like the silver colour that I received the car in, so I painted it Giallo Modena, but now it looks like a wedge of cheese. Well, it is a wedge of cheese, and a Hot Wheels car, and a Ferrari, all at once. It's also a hybrid with battery boost. Guess how long the battery lasts? How many laps of Monza can the battery do? Take your guess. The answer is 0.7. For reasons I cannot comprehend, Ferrari's futuristic, fictional car has a terrible hybrid system that cannot be manually controlled, so the battery always empties itself on the first lap, and you cannot do a faster second lap, making this car extraordinarily annoying for time trials and also no good for racing in general. It is a stupid car. Now, speaking of stupid cars, engine swaps can be stupid fun. Here is an LS swap DeLorean, but unfortunately the system surrounding it was still so ridiculous in December 2022, you wouldn't even know it existed without the help of a forum post on GT Planet. More swap options had been surreptitiously added to the game each month, like December's highlight, the K20 swapped a Bath 595 with a PP rating of danger. And that is why the game has allowed me to build a death trap. Civic Type R power to the rear wheels of a car that is quite old and under 600 kilos. There are plenty more better things to tell you about engine swaps later on. The last thing for December 2022 is that the McLaren F1 increased in price for hopefully the final time from 19.4 million to 20 million credits. Boo. Now moving on to January 2023.
What do you see in the ball?
Nothing.
Nothing? Then I have nothing to tell you.
No content update this time. Okay, how about February 2023? Picture it. A mid-80s Ferrari drives alone on a highway to synthesizer music in CinemaScope with an unusual colour filter. The production style of Top Gear had quite an influence on me. Not that Top Gear can lay the sole claim to using music and editing to showcase the emotions of driving a car. It's what all films and music videos and advertisements have been doing all the time. Now in this case I want you to forget the car and look at the road it's being driven on. Welcome to Grand Valley Highway 1. Grand Valley Speedway, a track we've known and loved since 1997, has made its return after being absent from GT Sport, but now it's been plonked down on California's Big Sur. It's gorgeous. The sightlines of this track, the scenery, the ocean, it's all visually stunning, if a bit confusing as it looks nothing like Grand Valley used to look. But when you drive it, you feel that the layout is the same. This is still the same half face, half high heel shoe shaped track we've always had. It's just been given a new setting and rotated 90 degrees clockwise. As I mentioned 30 seconds ago, sight lines are what's most impressive here. You can see so much scenery, but more importantly, so much of the road snaking out ahead of you. You can see the other side of the track. It really is a very grand valley and coast and mountains and Pacific Ocean and stuff. You can now take a photo of your car on what is almost exactly the Bixby Creek Bridge, or appreciate other cars from over a kilometre away. Even more impressive to see is the wildlife. Check out this flock of Canada geese. Better yet, check them out in photo mode. They're ridiculously detailed geese. And yes, there are California condors too that may distract you and cause you to crash. And that crash slowed me down just the right amount to set a lap time of exactly 2.5 minutes, which I found quite uncanny and disturbing and worthy of inclusion in here for some reason. There are so many more little details. If you wait long enough on the pre-race screen, there's a whole lot of elephant seals, even some moving around, making elephant seal noises and doing elephant seal things. The shorter, more hilly variation of the track returns, although it's no longer Grand Valley East, but Grand Valley South. I suppose the main track does go a bit further north, but it also goes much further west. I don't know why this one couldn't still be called Grand Valley East, unless they have plans for other variations, which I think they do since they left these mysterious intersections. When will Polyphony Digital show us what is around that corner? And what are these 5 people looking for? Is the Portaloo out of order? I just don't know. More exciting is what could be over here to the north. You can see the coast ahead of you, and it looks like this would make for a great, big, long, point-to-point track. There's even a sign telling you to expect California condors, elephant seals, and Bigfoot for the next 999 kilometers. According to a map, that's probably all the way to the Oregon border. Don't expect to see that anytime soon, though, not from the studio that's been hiding the second layout of Special Stage Route X for at least 12 years. Sunsets over the beaches look nice at Grand Valley, but unfortunately there's no time after sunset. Time just ends here. No nighttime racing available, and no rain either. Oh well. Yeah, this'll cheer us up. Gran Turismo burgers, and a cute little dog in the background. Alright, that's quite enough about odd little details of Grand Valley Highway 1. You know what else was added in this update? VR! With this update, you can now play the entirety of Gran Turismo 7 wearing goggles, similar to these. Just a bit heavier and with another strap, and lots of fancy technology inside that allows the game to be in the goggles. So you can look around it like this, with inside-out head tracking. I'm very lucky that a friend of mine has PSVR 2, and I was able to try out GT7's new VR implementation a few months ago, and I was very impressed, although I haven't played any other VR game before or since, so there's not much to compare it to, but I was definitely immersed. Allow me to reenact my greatest revelation. Whoa. The cup holder looks real. That may seem like a trivial thing to you, but it's not. And no amount of watching VR gameplay on YouTube will ever get you ready for it, because what matters is that it's 3D. It's easy to tell you that it looks good and that you can move your head around, but until you try it for yourself and see how solid everything looks, that's what really matters. How the dashboard of your car is no longer just a picture, but a dashboard you feel like you could reach out and touch. And how when you're driving up and down hills, the height is much more noticeable than if you were playing on a TV. It's like watching Avatar in 3D. Now, I haven't played any other VR games in my life before, but I have watched videos in VR in the Lynx deodorant plastic phone holder thing that's basically Google Cardboard, but made of plastic. And obviously, this much more expensive experience easily tops that. The VR2 headset easily fits over my glasses, which is great, although I probably should have taken them off because I'm short-sighted and I wear glasses for distance, and VR is the opposite of distance. So I found it a little bit blurry. I also found that the screen door effect was ever present. That is, when you're playing in VR2, you see very fine details, but you also see the very fine gaps between every single pixel in the unit. As if you're playing a game on a huge projector screen behind a fly screen. Or forget the fly screen, if you just sit too close to a projected screen, you will see the gaps between the pixels. I'm not knocking the PSVR 2 headset, I'm very impressed with it. I haven't tried the controllers, but the headset's really cool. It doesn't have colours as vibrant as an OLED, but I'm impressed with it enough that I would buy it if it were not $879 Australian dollars. And, crucial second point, if there were things to do with it other than this GT7 gimmick and Moss Book 2. If the headset gets cheaper and Ace Combat 8 has full VR2 support, then I might be convinced that it's a better, ridiculous luxury purchase than, say, Lego Rivendell. There is still a lot more in this February update. We've got 5 cars this time around. The first one here, well, it's got a column shifter, and that's already strange. And things are going to get stranger still, because this is a Citroën DS21 Palace from 1970. A wonderful design. Quite an old design, actually. This is a later model from the DS's 20-year lifespan. This car really predates the French Fifth Republic and Tom Hanks. It was the first car with oleopneumatic suspension, or hydro-pneumatic, using air and oil, and with some asterisks, the first major mass production car with disc brakes. Of course, the Jaguar C-Type had disc brakes before it, but that was for racing, and only the later models from 1953 onwards, and Crosley cars had disc brakes from 1949 to the early 50s, but there weren't that many of them. Anyway, car number 2. So go off on a tangent there. This is a Porsche 911 Carrera RS 2.7 of 1973. The first of the lightweight vroom vroom Rennsport models. Rennsport, Carrera RS. So it joins the other Carrera RS Porsches in the game, and with GT7's focus on lineages and families, it makes sense. It's a very sensible inclusion for the game. As a legendary Porsche from 50 years ago, as possibly the best fast example of the original generation of Porsche 911s, the first one with 200 horsepower. Good stuff. The classics keep coming with the Honda RA272, the first Japanese car to win a Formula One Grand Prix, doing so in Mexico in 1965 at the hands of Richie Ginther. This car has a 1.5 litre V12, which is tiny, and watching the exposed half shafts at the back is mesmerising. I'd love to see more classic open wheelers. Let's move on to the 4th car of this update. This is the new Italdesign Exenio Vision Gran Turismo. So it's a GT exclusive concept car, a coupe of the Gran Turismo style, all-wheel drive, V10, 1200 horsepower hybrid, and a very opaque windscreen. That's because it has no interior. Wow. For the first time since GT Sport's launch, an interiorless car. It has a description of the interior. It says it's literally developed around the driver. It has a crystal sphere cockpit. Perhaps if you gaze long enough into a crystal sphere, you see the inside of the Italdesign Exenio. It's especially strangely timed, given that this is the update that adds PSVR 2 support. If you try to drive this car in VR, you drive it from hood view, floating above the car. Things get stranger. The 5th car in this update is the Italdesign VGT again, but lifted, so you can fit dirt tyres to it. The Exenio name comes from the Latin word for gift, Xenium, but this gift you have to buy it twice. And when you get 2 cars you can do almost nothing with except drive in chase cam for 1 million credits each. Imagine if you'd put $30 into the PlayStation Store and spent it on a credit pack and spent those credits on buying these last 2 cars, instead of buying an Earth Defense Force game. If you like taking photos of drifting cars, well, you've been able to do that in replays for years, but there's now drift photography in Scapes, so that you can simulate a drift photo in a real photo backdrop with many, many parameters, and it's incredible. Another new Scape feature in this update that I cannot comprehend. Through some wizardry, you can move the camera up and down in some Scapes now. Move the camera, like Blade Runner, except not sideways in a reflection. At the end of my second GT7 review, I said, but to have these amazing experiences, you still need to find them yourself. The Sophie AI program will not materialize into anything useful for a matter of years. The strange part of that is that's the first time I mentioned Sophie, so I was depending on you knowing what I was talking about without introducing the topic. The short version is, Sophie is an AI agent developed by Sony AI to be the fastest, smartest, but also fairest and most human-like and sportsman-like racing opponent that the virtual world has ever seen. The longer version is, from the beginning of racing games, you and the computer have not been playing the same game. In Daytona, USA, the player drives the Hornet, which has chunky wheels and it drifts, and all your opponents are immovable slot cars railed into the ground, programmed to get to the end of the track at a certain speed that a skilled player should be just able to beat. To make a racing game, or any game, fun and engaging, victories need to feel hard fought and earned. So these slot cars, while crude, work beautifully on all of Daytona USA's 3 courses. Racing games have grown more complicated in the 3 decades since, and so have their bots. The norm from the 90s to the present day has been to make bots that follow a racing line, if possible, loosely and realistically, and that blatantly cheat to catch up to the player, if possible, while the player's not looking. This is the acceptable standard. It's not just Burnout, Need for Speed, Mario Kart and One Guy Midnight games. Gran Turismo has a history of rubber banding. Even the drivatars of every Forza game that take your racing lines and run them through a neural network model in an attempt to make the most human-like decisions still cheat. Sophie also uses a neural network, but a very different one. Through the wonders of deep learning and quantile regression soft actor critic, which I think is like the digital version of dog agility training, it was given treats until it was the fastest driver in the world, and it proved this by beating the best players of Gran Turismo Sport shortly before GT7 launched in a wonderful bit of marketing for a feature that was not in the game. Until this Race Together event. This was only a limited time demo of a limited interpretation of Sophie AI, with 4 races in 4 difficulties each, but it's better than nothing. And it's very cool, actually. I really like the menu music they use. But better than that is the racing. You were pitted against 4 colours of Sophie: bleu, rouge, vert and violet. And they're all of different difficulties. The green one, vert, that's an easy Sophie. Red is slightly more difficult. Blue is a pretty hard opponent to keep up with. I'm not sure if the blue one had a faster car than the red one, but it definitely tried harder to win and passed me on the outside in turns. But your real threat is the car that starts at the back of the race.
La voiture violette violon.
The fastest of the Sophies here is provided with the lowest performance car and the highest performance driver. Sophie Violette is very, very aggressive and uses the full width of the road, taking a gutsy racing line and making outstandingly courageous overtakes. In this clip, racing at Suzuka, there was almost no gap, but Sophie Violette found it anyway, with amazing accuracy. The program is not perfect. Here, the violent purple car lost control after a small bump from the blue one behind it, but overall it's an amazing glimpse into the future of racing AI, where it feels less like artificial intelligence and more like Andrea Iannone is battling you for first place. This Sophie Race Together event was the most fun I've had racing offline. And it's a real shame that it was only available for a month. And a year down the track, you cannot retry these events to see if you can beat the purple car on Expert. I should also note that this was only available in the PS5 version of GT7. While PS4 players get updates at the same time with the same cars and tracks, the feature list is starting to diverge. No VR for PS4, no Sophie either. I'm sorry, the February chapter still isn't over, because my birthday is in February, and GT7 now lets you claim your birthday gift up to a week before or after your birthday. I don't know what happens if you miss that. Birthday cars have been a series tradition since Gran Turismo 5, being the first GT game to know your birthday because it looked at your PSN account details. And while in GT 5 and 6 birthday cars were based on your birth year, and they tried to give you something as old as you, it hasn't been the case since GT Sport with its reduced car list, so I got a TT Cup. That's nice, I didn't already own the car. The real gift is the fireworks that I wish I could turn on in custom race mode. It must be nice to get fireworks for your birthday. Hopefully I can finish that Yakuza 7 review by the end of April. Want to make it a Yokohama double feature? Anyway, that's the end of the February section. Grand Valley is a wonderful track. VR2 is a cool feature. Sophie Race Together was a cool event. And these cars are nice. Now, February took 17 minutes to explain, but I promise you, most updates are smaller than this and will be faster to get through. Let's fly into the March 2023 Content Update. The first car we're going to look at here is a Toyota. It's the Toyota Alphard Executive Lounge. Oh, yes. I'm not kidding. This is a good addition. What a car. Look at the inside of this thing. I wish I could do this with every car. I forgot to mention before, the VR update added a VR showroom mode where you can have a good look around cars, but only if you have the extremely expensive headset. The rest of us just have to do with the ray-traced car collection history montages, which are nice and pretty. Anyway, to drive this V6 powered luxury minivan is a treat. It is a wonderful car to drive. It's great to look at. It feels great on the road. And on a personal note, it's the closest car I'll get to the 2GR powered Toyota Tarago I've spent so much time in the passenger and rear seats of. The only real difference is that this car is a little bit more powerful and all-wheel drive. Now we've got the Porsche 959 and the 904 or Carrera GTS, two extraordinarily expensive Porsches from history. The 959 you'll find useful in that one same old grinding event at Tokyo because it's all-wheel drive and has around 600 pp. It's perfect for that. It would only be more perfect if Polyphony Digital could add some more events, but they won't. So, here's the Porsche 904. Sold as the Carrera GTS for the same reason the Porsche 901 was renamed to 911, because Peugeot owns all numbers with 0 in the middle. The 904 fits into the very simple mid-engined Porsche racer chronology. It's a nice, snazzy little lightweight car that's really expensive and has not many uses in the game, but it's pretty. Two Nürburgring layouts return to GT7. We've got the Sprint track, formerly known as GP/D, the shortest one, and the slightly shorter than the 24-hour variant, formerly known as Nürburgring Type V, V being short for VLN, being short for Veranstaltungsgemeinschaft Langstreckenpokel Nürburgring. It's now called Nürburgring Endurance, because it often holds the non-24-hour endurance races. And because GT7 is weird about their day-night cycles, you can't use the 24-hour day-night cycle that the 24-hour variant that's only slightly different has. It's just really silly. And now, what I think is possibly the prettiest normal car on sale today, the current Mazda 3 has been added to the game, specifically in a Japanese exclusive all-wheel drive variant. Here we have a really pretty Sky at Le Mans, and the Audi RS5 Turbo DTM joins Group 2. Short story, DTM had been planning to merge their rules and regulations with Super GT's GT500 cars for a while, and that resulted in 2019 in these new Class 1 touring cars, which the Audi is one of. The Audi, a BMW and an Aston Martin raced the Japanese cars all of 2 times, and then the second season of using these cars, everyone decided it was far too expensive and the whole category folded. Very sad this race car had such a short life. Even sadder than this sad April Fool's joke that is the Dior Mangusta coming back to the Legend car dealership again. 1 month after the VR update, the PS5 version of GT7 gets VRR, which is Variable Refresh Rate. A really important and cool feature for those with new enough TVs. Turn it on, and it lets you play the game not at 4K 60, but at 4K 80 to 105 FPS. If your TV was made at just the wrong time and supports 120Hz mode but not VRR, there is a setting for that too. You can play the game at 1080p, 120 FPS. It's somewhat jagged but very smooth, like glass on toast. Now why am I doing License Test B1 again? Well, to improve on my time. Oh, and also because all of the license and circuit experience leaderboards were reset. So while I have lots of gold medals, I've lost most of my times. Oh, and after playing almost every day for a year, I finally got an Aston Martin ticket to buy a Vulcan, thanks to the ridiculous ticket invite system. And that's all of March 2023. That was quick. The April 2023 Content Update. XJ220. I could just say that and nothing else, but it's very important. The Jaguar XJ220 has been a Gran Turismo icon since Gran Turismo 2. It made it into GT3, the game with the least cars in the series. Followed through to GT4, 5 and 6, with the same standard model that featured in GT4. But here it is now with this gorgeous, detailed premium model. With all the details you could ever want to see. You can get up real close and sniff it. It's been quoted with a lower horsepower figure than I've ever seen on the car before. It says 534 here, and then when you go to buy it, only 515. When the car usually has over 540. But whatever, it's just a number. Now you too can own a virtual XJ220 for less credits than it's ever been offered for in Gran Turismo history, and play with its pop-down headlights and scapes for the first time, and nothing else matters. I suppose I still have to go through the other things. Here's the newly added SF23, available with Toyota and Honda engines, and I stuck a Gayo sticker on it. And behind us is a hotel that was added to block the view of Fuji Mountain. Officially Fuji Speedway Hotel - The Unbound Collection by Hyatt. I think the name's a bit much, and it blocks the view of the mountain, and the SF23 is more exciting. And here's the newly added Mercedes AMG GT3 of 2020, which is different to the other model because it is orange, and it has a different steering wheel badge, and because it hasn't been out for as long, no one's made really weird liveries for it yet, like Pepsi Papaya. Pepsi? I think this was also the update that added double Hayabusa V8 compatibility for the 2015 BRZ, and it was around this time PD started running 2 online time trials per fortnight instead of just 1, which is a step in the right direction. Anything at all that makes the currently extremely boring process of earning credits to acquire all of this game's cars less boring is a very good thing. There was no track in this month, but let's see what the May 2023 content update brings to the table. It's a Nissan Skyline GTR, which we already had, but this is different, because this is an R32 Nismo. The 1990 Skyline GTR Nismo has not been seen in Gran Turismo since the first 2 games, and with that 22 and a bit year absence, it's broken the record for the longest time between Gran Turismo appearances, previously set by this other fire-breathing Skyline in July 2022. I love the R30 Super Silhouette, but I'm supposed to be talking about this Skyline. So, the 1990 GTR Nismo is racing here in a custom race, and that shows you why the campaign does not have grid starts for the most part. The AI really can't race together. We need Sophie. But the car, okay, what are its features? You hear that dinging noise? When you exceed 105 kilometers an hour, this car has a nice little chime that dings at you to remind you that you are speeding. While that's a useful feature to remind you not to have too much fun on the Japanese road network, it's immersive for the game and realistic, but gets really bothersome after about 20 seconds. Now, as for the differences between the early and late model 32 GTRs in this game, well, the Nismo has different wheels. In fact, they're narrower too, giving the V-Spec 2 more grip, but the Nismo is 100 kilos lighter and has more torque. The main points in the later model's favour are its price, which I thought was high at 180-ish thousand credits, but the Nismo costs 400,000 credits despite being of similar rarity, and the V-Spec 2 doesn't ding at you when you speed. Second car in this update, the 2018 SEMA Show Gran Turismo Award winner, the Greening Auto Company Maverick. It was the 16th and final winner of a ticket into Gran Turismo at the SEMA Show, and the second last to debut, since the car that won the year before came in a few months later, which we'll get to later. Now this is a Ford Maverick from 1971, or it was, and then it's been lowered and given 1,200 horsepower, courtesy of a very large small block V8 with twin turbo. Can you believe the Ford Maverick was sold as a small car? I mean, it's smaller than a Ford Torino, which is smaller than a Ford Galaxy, which is smaller than a Ford LTD, but I wouldn't call it small. Now here is a car that is small, the third car in this update, You can see it's got a wooden dash. If you spotted the badge on the wheel, you know it's an Alfa Romeo. And it's an Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GT Veloce from 1967. Technically making its Gran Turismo debut. The very similar Giulia Sprint GTA 1600 was one of my favourite cars in Gran Turismo 4 to drive around Costa di Amalfi, and it was in GT5 and 6 as well, but it's good to have a Giulia Sprint back. And here's something else really good. Clayton says that now that I'm collected at level 50, which I've been since a week after launch, thanks to this update, I can now actually buy engine swaps. Not for this car, but for others. Let's say you have an Alfa Romeo 4C and you've wanted to put the V8 from a Ferrari 458 into it. Well, now you can chuck it in. I mean, literally chuck it in. The animation is amazing. Sorry. You want to see that again bigger? You go to GT Auto and you say to the guys, can you throw a Chevy V8 into this TVR Tuscan? This guy can. He picks it up, does a spin and throws it with all his might, with all the majesty of chucking a toilet into a skip bin. I love everything about that animation. Now this process costs half the price of the car the engine comes from, plus 100,000 credits. So making a Evo 10 Scudo Pikes Peak car is very expensive. But there are plenty of cheaper swaps that work out pretty well, like a GR86 with a 2JZ. It's good stuff. And now you don't have to have a very rare roulette ticket item to get it, as it should be. Accessible for any player who's beaten Menu Book 39 or so. Doesn't take long to get to level 50. And there's another great bonus too. That's a pretty high collector level you've got there, Snake of Bacon. I think it's about time I started selling you ultimate parts, said Rupert. Yeah, it is about time. So you know all those stupid parts you could only win from roulette tickets? Now you can buy them, which means parts tickets are completely useless, and I want to stop getting them, especially when they mostly give me parts that I never needed to be level 50 to buy, like these stupid carbon ceramic brakes. If 5-star tickets can win me 1,000,000 credits, what's so 6-star about brakes? What am I going to do with a nitrous system for a Renault Megane Group 4 that's illegal to race with? Nearly every ticket's just a waste of time. I mean, do I want to win a pittance or a camshaft or a... Well, the Italdesign Xenio is not that bad a prize, I suppose. I've already got one though, so here's the selling an Italdesign Xenio speedrun. You go here, sort by manufacturer, scroll down all the way, and there. Takes about 54 seconds. I can't complain about easy money. I can complain that we still can't take the roof off the Ferrari F50. And I want to, for all the credits it cost me. The F50 and its roof are not really relevant to this update. Something that is, and is a bit hard for me to explain, is that GT7 has 2 PP systems, one of which is the older one, which is not visible anywhere except 2-player, and that's the one that all time trial scores were listed on for the leaderboards. But with this month's update, cars are labelled with their PP and put in the right category, which spreads them out further and gives you about 100 more leaderboard spots to use. And to finish off this section, GT7 is officially an Olympic sport, I think. There was an Olympic esports series where any player could attempt to qualify for the Olympics. Those who had the best time in a time trial, and there was also an easy race event letting you try out Olympic Deep Forest that has some extra banners on it. It's all very strange, and it means that technically I, Snake of Bacon, have tried out for the Olympics, I think. It is an Olympic esports official licensed event. I don't know if that makes it more official than the last time I played the Athens 2004 PS2 game, but maybe. Also no new track. The June 2023 Content Update. For 15 months, the Music Rally section had a "Coming soon, stay tuned for further updates" button after the 6th one. Well, no more, because this is the Music Rally update. There's 6 more Music Rallies now. And the stay tuned for further updates button is gone, so I guess that's it, forever. There are 3 cars this month, the oldest of which is the 1995 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 3, the car with which Tommi Mäkinen won the 1996 World Rally Championship. It's a legend, and the kind of car GT7 needs more of. Just waiting on Lancer Evo 1, 2, 7, 8 and 9 now. The Evo 3 is the last of the first generation Lancer Evos with the small body. They continue to get bigger from then on out, but it really is a compact car. You can see it's about the same size as a Alfa Romeo 4C, or more relevantly, it's smaller than the current Toyota Corolla. It's little, but mighty. It came from the factory with an anti-lag system, which is reflected in the game, and a yellow Evo 3 appeared in the Jackie Chan movie Thunderbolt that I've been meaning to see. Now here comes another hero. Oh boy. The 2004 WRX STI sedan is exactly the sort of thing we needed. You know, before it was added, there was a huge gap in the Subaru library in GT7 from 1999 to 2014. No Subarus in that gap until now. Very good. Now, I prefer the Bug-Eye slightly myself, and it would be nice to have a wagon, as there's still no wagons in GT7 at all, but I can't say no to a Blob-Eye sedan WRX STI, and look at the gorgeous interior. I had no idea it had blue door trim, because I've never seen the inside of one. For pedantic car nerds out there like myself, this exact Impreza has not appeared in Gran Turismo before. The Impreza WRX STI of 2004 in Gran Turismo 4 was a Spec C. This beloved blue car is tremendously fun to look at, take photos of, and of course, drive enthusiastically on dirt or tar macadam. It fills my heart with nostalgic joy. Car number 2 is the Aston Martin Valkyrie. It's even more expensive than the Vulcan, though you don't need an invitation to buy this 4 million credit insane hypercar. It sounds very good, because it has a 6.5 litre V12 by Cosworth, naturally aspirated and revving to 11,100 RPM, which is completely insane. That appears to have been the design brief. Our customers are rich, mad and crave vroom vroom, so go ape. Make the most extreme car the world has ever, will ever see to be powered by an internal combustion engine. The fastest on roads that have corners. It's not the top speed champion of the world. You know, if they ever finish the SSC Tuatara, it's only been about 13 years, maybe that will be. It can't match a Bugatti or a Koenigsegg in a straight line, a very long straight line, but around corners, it handles like nothing else. This child of the partnership of Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing and Adrian Newey has so much downforce. I don't know, it just has so much downforce. It's right up there with the fastest race cars in the world, and yet it's road legal. Theoretically, a Valkyrie owner could drive up to the chip shop, buy chips, and drive back home and not be arrested unless there was a noise complaint. Of course, when the police officer tells you that your car is too noisy, you just tell them to hop in the passenger seat and see that it's actually louder on the inside and that they should come for a drive with you. And that's technically bribery and maybe a felony, but whatever. Now, I said before it wasn't the fastest in a straight line, but it can hit 370 on the back of the Nürburgring with the KERS on, giving it an extra 140 horsepower, and that is not slow. It's really thrilling to drive, as you'd hope it would be for 4 million credits. And in this little Nürburgring session, I managed, let's see what it was, 628 with the HUD off on a controller. I'm on the stock sports soft tyres and I'm not very fast. I'm sure someone else could do a 610, and I've seen there's a record under 530 on racing softs. So, 6 music rallies to give you something to do if your internet connection goes down and you can't play the rest of the game. 3 outstanding cars, and No real single-player events of note. If there was anything worth mentioning, I would tell you, but the grind is not getting any better. So does that make it a good update? Is the standard now just good cars? Wow, that was a really long shot. I love the cinematography in this game. The August 2023 content update. Slipping from late July to early August, this update covers 2 months. Anyway, first car in it is a C1 Corvette, and thankfully, not a 1953 model, but a later, more beautiful, more powerful 1958 C1. Look at all this red. Fiberglass and leatherette and shiny stuff. It is a gorgeous sports car and very fun to drive. Now the Corvette family is almost fully represented. We just don't have any C5 vets yet. Or a regular C6 or a C4 Grand Sport. But back onto this one, I love the two-tone look, and I really love that it's easy to repaint the two-tone job in any colour you like. I tuned up the black one and kept this one stock, and of course I have another one in case of an engine swap in the future. The C1 Corvette is outstandingly fun to drive, even in stock form, where it's a little bit skittish of course on its old tyres. It's sporty and exciting, and I think in VR it would be amazing, since you could look up at the sky and all that. On the more modern sporty side of things, check out this. This lovely, sporty blue car is the Maserati MC20. The long-awaited 4th Maserati in Gran Turismo history. Well, I've been waiting for it for a long time, but I never expected to actually see it, even though it was advertised in the game, as I mentioned in Gran Turismo 7 Review Part 3. In the Brand Central section of GT7, there are links to videos on the Ghibli GT Hybrid, the Maserati MC20. Well, that'd be nice. Yeah, I thought that'd be nice, and now it's happened and it really is nice. I don't expect to see the other 2 Maseratis there or any other car advertised in Brand Central added to Gran Turismo. I think this is just a freak occurrence. Update, I checked, and actually the Aston Martin Valkyrie was on Aston Martin's Brand Central channel before it appeared in the game too, so maybe this is a thing. Maybe we'll finally get one of the closed cockpit KTM crossbows or the Pagani Huayra R. But now, back to the MC20. This is Maserati's first supercar since the MC12, which was sort of a rebodied Ferrari Enzo. The MC20 is powered by a Maserati V6, wink wink, not a Ferrari or an Alfa Romeo engine, except for all the shared parts. But what I want to talk about is the rear window. Oh, that's a silly thing to talk about. Now, rear visibility doesn't look like it would be great, but there is in fact glass there, and has, well, maybe it's plastic. Whatever, the rear window has a Maserati Trident cut out into it. It's very cool, but the car lacks an in-game rear interior view, which seems like bad advertising. It's as if Polyphony is saying, hey, the MC20 has poorer rear visibility than the Pagani Huayra, which should be impossible. July-August was a strange month. The patch notes mention that it adds 4 new cars, but the deal with that is that 2 of them were included with the update, and the other 2 were very hard to access until the end of the next month. 2 now, 2 later. That's the deal with 1.36, the Gran Turismo movie celebratory update. That's the other big deal of July-August. You can't do this anymore, but for a little while, in Gran Turismo 7 you could pick Orlando Bloom's nose with the cursor. The Gran Turismo movie, and one of the star cars from that movie, this GTR Nismo GT3. And this is not one of the 4 cars. This doesn't count, this is just a livery. Speaking of liveries, I should have added to the June section, you can cheer on Ines Iwata Racing Lexus RCF GT3, driven in the GT300 by GT World Series champion Igor Fraga and Formula Japan regional champions Miki Koyama and Yuga Furutani. That was a lot of words. I didn't even get to mention that Miki Koyama is the only female driver in Super GT at the moment. And while driving this car, I missed a critical fuel stop and doomed myself to lose the race, but it's not the car's fault. Now, how about that Gran Turismo movie? Gran Turismo is quite good. That was a short review. What else did I say? Very patchy and uneven. But really lovely. Lovely cinema experience. I would recommend. Those were my initial reactions. having just seen the movie, and that was 243 days ago. Now, I haven't seen it since, but off the top of my head, a quick 90-second or so review. Gran Turismo is a film not really about the game, but about what the game did for Jan Mardenborough, the third winner of the GT Academy. For the purposes of this film, Lucas Ordóñez seemingly doesn't exist, and Jan is the first winner of the GT Academy, and this is a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory story about how a gamer could be really good at gaming, and despite his father's protests that if he keeps doing this he'll end up working physical labour, he proves everyone wrong and becomes a real-life racing driver. This is presented as the idea of Orlando Bloom's character, who's essentially Will Turner, except he's a Nissan marketing executive, and instead of saying, "I practice 3 hours a day so that when I meet a pirate, I can kill it," he's saying, "Nissan should sell cars to gamers. They're the only true car fans in the world," or something like that. That last one's not a direct quote. Now, at this point, it's just amazing that the movie exists. I get a real chuckle out of that. Archie Madekwe plays Jan. He plays a relatable teenager. He doesn't get that many great lines, but that's not really his role. His role is just, be awkward and race a car really well and triumph. His parents played by Jimon Hunso and Ginger Spice, and I can't remember anything they said, but there's some acting there. The real star of the film is David Harbour, who plays his mentor and basically saves the movie. Now, 90 seconds is actually not long enough for this review. I need another song. So, once we get to the actual racing competition, you get all sorts of character archetypes. The main one that stuck out to me was the pantomime evil villain driving a golden Lamborghini, who seems to represent online players of Gran Turismo that constantly ram you in golden Lamborghinis and other cars. But not a realistic race driver. Someone like that who deliberately rams people cannot actually survive in the racing world just by being rich. There are in fact rules about contact. We see the villain get into a Koenigsegg Gemera at one point, which does make me wonder if Koenigsegg will ever come to Gran Turismo or if Sony sees them as cars for villains. But more important than that, the racing scenes are quite good, and the film tries to match it up with good human drama. After some really terrible human drama in the first quarter of the film, things start to get better. It never quite matches Rush or Ford v Ferrari. The major dramatic point of the film is Jan Mardenborough's crash at the Nürburgring, which tragically killed a spectator. Moving this event backwards 2 years from when it happened to be earlier in his career for dramatic purposes is tasteless, but it's treated in the film very seriously. It's odd. Gran Turismo is telling a story that really should be told, and it's trying to tell it as seriously as it can, but it just can't help itself from changing almost every fact in the order it happens in, sometimes slightly, sometimes severely. When I'm annoyed by things like this, it's because I already know the story, and I have to remind myself that a film is art, and art is not about all of the facts. The measure of a biopic is not just its veracity, otherwise Lawrence of Arabia wouldn't be such a great film. It would be dragged down by all the things in it that aren't completely true, and yet it isn't. It rises above that. It tells a story about themes and characters, and you can look up things about the real Lawrence of Arabia later, and you can look up the story of the real Jan Mardenborough after you watch the Gran Turismo film, and as long as it popularises that story, that's what matters. Another thing that matters is that my local cinema replaced their Daytona USA 2 machine with this piece of junk, and I'm gutted. Now, those other two cars. This one here is a Toyota. It's white, and it's a Japanese ambulance. That's right, the Toyota Hi-Medic is in Gran Turismo 7, and it is remarkable. Took around the Nürburgring in 12 minutes. The Toyota Hi-Medic can make many noises. There are 2 different sirens and a horn. On top of all that, the indicators speak polite Japanese. Like all of GT7's cars, it is astonishingly detailed, but in an ambulance with so many things in it, those details are even more astonishing. We've got hand sanitizer, plastic gloves, hundreds of buttons, computers, and there's more things in the back that you can't see unless you have PSVR 2 or if you're in the livery editor. Variety of seats and a stretcher in the back, the curtains, all the cupboards, everything's there. There's even a stethoscope and so many other pieces of medical equipment. I'd like to send a huge thank you to everyone involved in getting this ambulance into Gran Turismo. It looks amazing. I hope it is kept for as long as possible. All those months of fine modelling work should pay off. This should be the official Gran Turismo ambulance from here on out. In 25 years, I should be driving this ambulance around in Gran Turismo 8. 11. 11 or 12. Dramatic. Exciting. What could this be? It's another Toyota, and it is the other car, the fourth one, the one you can test drive before it's officially released. Oh, you could. Anyway, I'm doing a bit, alright? Giacarola, Giacarola, Giacarola is in the game. And you mustn't forget that. It's the Morizo edition, Giacarola. It is slightly faster. Morizo Edition comes with sportier tyres, no rear seats, they've been replaced with a place to put more tyres, and there's 349 additional spot welds. Didn't quite hit my note. So, the Giacarola was added in 1.36 in early August, and some players, if they participated in the right event, could get one as a ticket, but you couldn't actually buy it in the game normally until the end of September. This is Stalling for Time, the update, and you'll see why soon. But yeah, I'm not stalling for time, I'm really trying to get this done quickly, but it just takes so long, and sport mode payouts are still terrible, and there was no track in July or August.
The September 2023 content update.
Die, Dior Mangusta! Ho 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 ho! Now you can buy the Giacarola Morizo Edition. Oh, but September does come with 3 other cars. We have the new Civic Type R, the FL5, the 2022 Civic Type R. It looks less like an angry tuna car and more like a bear. But bears eat tuna. No, salmon. Well, bear might eat tuna if it... Anyway, the Civic Type R of 2022 is a very fast front-wheel drive car, but I couldn't get it under 8 minutes in that one time trial that had it. You know how frustrating it is to get 80 milliseconds. Whatever. There were briefly 4 online time trials at once, thanks to these Honda events, one of which you had to be under 17 to enter. Here's the insides of the new Civic Type R, where all the magic happens. Note the honeycomb strip mounted low on the dashboard. It's around hand height to give you easy access to all of your bees. There's also a red line alarm to remind you to change gears. Second car for September is also a Civic. An EG Civic that has been very, very customised and completely stripped out. Phil Robles' Garage RCR Civic, the winner of the second last SEMA Gran Turismo Award from 2017. This car was once just a regular 1992 EG Civic. It had a normal Civic life until Phil bought it in 2006 to go time trialling. Over 10 years of mods and track weekends, it became a much lower, wider car, gained a roll cage, various carbon bits, a K24 engine from a much heavier Honda, a sequential shifter, and eventually a turbo kit, bringing it up to nearly 400 horsepower, which is a lot in a 1-ton front-wheel drive car. Third and last car is also front-wheel drive. Well, at least it's a fun car. This is the Mazda 3 Group 4. Based on Mazda's real Super Taikyu Mazda 3, which runs on biodiesel. I'm not sure what's in the back seat, I can't see very well, but I can tell you one thing. I used to always wonder about these circles on the back of touring cars in Gran Turismo 2 on the PS1. I thought that was the exhaust. It's not. Those circles are double dry brake couplings. That's where the fuel goes in and the air goes out while the fuel's going in. What else did I discover in September? I found the kangaroos on Mount Panorama. They're exactly where they should be. I also saw the new Porsche collection menu. Since the early 2000s, supercars have begun to play a part in the global fight against climate change. Yeah, the 918 Spider fights climate change by running on its battery for 19 kilometers. That's amazing, Porsche. I also won 1 million credits from a roulette ticket. It does happen occasionally. Very occasionally, maybe 1 in 100. I promptly put it towards my buying old cars fund. Goodbye, 20 million credits. Hello, straight 8 Alfa Romeo. Immediate regret. No, I'm kidding. I love this car and I'm trying to get my money's worth out of it. So if that means time trialing it at every course, taking lots of photos of it and entering as many races with it as I can, that's probably what I'll do. While we're talking about expensive cars, this is a game with dynamic pricing after all, and the real McLaren Inflation Simulator, you can now pay another 2.5 million credits for the GTR Longtail and another 2.6 million for the other McLaren F1 GTR. And much worse than that, in the same update, although I didn't spot it too much later because the cars are on a slow rotation, the Ferrari 330 P4 has rejoined the 20 million credit car club out of nowhere. It was 9.5, it just jumped up another 10.5 million, back to the upper limit. So now if you don't have it, you can grind for an extra 6.5 hours minimum to have it. And you need it for a trophy if you're going for all the trophies, so this is for the players. Get yourself well acquainted with Le Mans, or if you're really crazy, try out some engine swaps at Tokyo. I thought the 13B Cappuccino was mad, and it is, but the new Honda Beat with a K20 in it is even madder and cheaper. Try it out. Show how funky and strong is your fight. It doesn't matter who's wrong or right, just beat it. Now back to the Hi-Medic. I know I've already talked a fair bit about it, but not enough. The tuning potential for this vehicle is quite high. Now, I didn't want to tune mine that I received from a ticket because I couldn't get another. I didn't want to do irreversible damage to it or wide body the ambulance for whatever reason. But as of September, the car is released for buying in Brand Central and it costs nothing. It's free. It doesn't just not cost money, it doesn't cost credits. And you don't just get one, you can have as many free Hi-Medics in your garage as you like. Of course, if you make an item free and infinite in a game, people are going to exploit it and do strange things. But thankfully, the people doing things with a Hi-Medic are artists, livery editors, the people who sit down and spend hours painstakingly recreating real ambulances or designing hot rods, abstract designs, tributes to anime characters, and this. If you didn't catch that right, this is Shrek Corona. Do you want to go on the sesh, pal? I think this may be the greatest car design I have ever seen. Thank you, Rich Jones, for this evocative imagery. I can picture the whole scene. Donkey, do you want to go on the sesh, pal? You won't have to ask me twice, Shrek. I'm in. What's a sesh? Beer. And the consumption of it, Donkey. Oh, I get you now. You got a six-pack or something. A six-pack. That's a good joke. No, my hoofed friend, I have 2 cases of Corona. Whoa. They were on special. Yeah, but 2 cases gotta be pretty expensive, Shrek. Well, there was a high initial outlay, so to speak. But you always save money buying in bulk. And that's why 6-packs are cheaper than singles. Marginally, yes. Well, somebody ought to give this financial advice to Puss in Boots, because I always see him buying 1 beer at a time. Take the bottle already. Cheers. Puss in Boots is a wee cat, Donkey. He cannot carry more than 1 beer. Did somebody call my name? Hey, Puss. Donkey said he saw you at the bottle shop. Yeah, buying loose beers the expensive way. Such is the price of discovery. And I collect all the different bottle caps when I'm finished. You see, Donk, Singles for variety, cases for the sesh. 6 packs are convenient, but they're usually a rip-off. Oh yeah, that's how they get you. Well, what if you just go to a little BYO party and you don't want to bring too much? Well, then you buy a case, you take one of the included 6 packs out, and leave the other 3 6-packs at home for later. You are a wise man, Shrek. Now could you please, pásame una cerveza, compañero. You too can have this inspiring vehicle in GT7. Just search Shrek in the showcase, get a free Toyota Hiacetic, and make it a wide body for 25,000 credits. That's pretty much all for September 2023, besides a few scapes. No more endurance races were added. This one here is from April 2022. No more have been added since then. 17 months in a row with no more endurance races or any races that pay more than the Le Mans grind. And that GR Corolla fits into an odd speed niche. It's at the very top of hot hatch speed, but slower than all more serious sports cars. I guess it can only really compete with the new Civic Type R. And as with March, April, May, June, July and August, September had no track again. And now, not Trackmania.
The October 20... September 20... Spec 2!
It's happening! Spec 2 is the big one. And first of all, there's snow again. We have a new snow track, so I can finally do what was promised in the Gran Turismo Sport intro movie, and drive an Alpine A110 on snow as I could in Gran Turismo 4, 5 and 6. This is good, this belongs here. Now this time around it's not Chamonix in France, but Lake Louise in the Canadian Rockies. It has 3 layouts, a long, a short and a snowval. That's an oval on snow. Takes me back to my GT5 track editor days. It was wonderful that you could make more snow tracks in that game. And if you turn the complexity way down, it would make you a big oval, and I did that and I called it Snowval. Now this one's a much smaller snowval, but it has 3 banked turns. And do you know how cool it is to have a snow oval in Gran Turismo? This adds something to the game. It was not there before. And whenever I read a post or hear someone saying that rally in Gran Turismo is a waste of time, they should focus on tarmac, I say nonsense. We've had rally cars and rally tracks in Gran Turismo since GT2 for good reason. Variety. Dirt is an entirely different experience to the road. It uses a different skill set and it adds hours to the game if you want to get good at driving on dirt. And then snow adds that all again. Now that they have these snow courses, you can drive nearly 400 cars on snow tyres here if you buy enough snow tyres. Can anyone honestly say that sliding around sideways in a Subaru on snow is not fun? Can anyone tell me why I've gone on this tirade, this ranting and raving polemic against the road purists who aren't even watching this video? Well, if you are watching and you do feel that dirt and snow do not belong in Gran Turismo, I hope I've changed your mind. I don't mean to yell at you, but it's very important to me that GT remains a place for rally cars to have fun too. Lake Louise has a nearly complete day-night cycle. Unfortunately, it's not the full 24 hours. You can't go from midnight to watching the sunrise, but you can race very early in the morning and at very dark nights. And the lighting is phenomenal. This is one of the best sights I've seen on my PS5, partially because it shows me what a new SSX game could look like, but mostly just because the colours are amazing, and the coloured lighting. This track is full of lights. We have coloured red and blue Gran Turismo themed lights, and then around this corner to the left, the strings of festoon lighting, and the way they glow is utterly mesmerising and gorgeous. Polyphony Digital have mastered light bulbs. Now I'm really looking forward to when Rome Circuit comes back. I want to see those lamps lit up, and I want to see a well-lit Colosseum. But first, we have 7 cars here, and the first and most important to me is the LFA making its return, unfortunately hiked up to 4 times its original price. Which means you have to be 4 times more choosy about which of its many, many colours to buy it in. 30 colours. I went with Pearl Blue. It's powered by a V10, of course, co-developed by Yamaha, made of magnesium and stuff, and offers a hell of a soundtrack. Can we say that in a PEGI 3 rated game? sounds bloody good. Yes, I think hell of a soundtrack is an apt description. The car's designers famously called it the roar of an angel. I'd say it's more like the indignant scream of a Tyrannosaurus Rex upon being thwacked in the groin by an Ankylosaurus's clubbed tail, but that's just me. I love this car. I love that Toyota spent so many hundreds of millions of dollars making it. I've loved driving it in Gran Turismo. I don't like that it had a 6-year absence, but it's back now. Next up is a classic bit of Mopar muscle. Gran Turismo made me fall in love with 1970 Chargers, but this is a 68. Just different taillights, but the same uninterrupted grille. Not like the 69 models that sort of have a septum in the middle. That's why I like the 68s and 70s more. Now it would be cool to have a 66 or 67 with a beautiful electroluminescent dash, but that's a car for another day. Beautifully modelled taillights as always, and note that they're really small compared to the 1970 Chargers. Massive taillights. Well, that's enough geeking about Dodge Charger model years. Obviously, being a big, hefty muscle car, it's great for cruising around in, but in stock form, not especially good for racing with a top speed of only just over 200 kilometers an hour, which is not the worst as far as the muscle cars go. It's alright. But a powerful car like this could obviously reach much higher speeds if it had the sort of axle ratios used in NASCAR, but you can't have a long ratio 4-speed in GT7. You need to buy a 5-speed. And because of how GT7 handles used cars' colours, if you don't get a plum crazy one, you have to buy plum crazy yourself and apply it to the car yourself, and then you miss out on the white bumblebee stripes, but that's okay because you'll be plum crazy! But yes, the main feature of the Dodge Charger is its looks, that powerful, mysterious underside of a mushroom-like front end. It's all held together by those hidden headlights. They're so cool. They give that car a living, beastly quality. It already has this roaring Hemi V8, and then once the engine's on, the vacuum pressure from the engine opens its eyelids, and you get to see that when you go through tunnels in GT7, which is amazing. The third car of Spec 2 is another Dodge, but a decidedly more modern take, the 2018 Challenger SRT Demon.
Go Mango!
The muscle cars of the modern age have grown so extreme that the Demon makes not 500 or 600, but 840 horsepower from the factory, enough to easily embarrass supercars. And it can sort of go around corners too, despite being a 2-ton brick. It's not made for corners, it's made for the great American automotive pastimes of driving down highways, making insanely loud noises on suburban streets, and occasional quarter-mile sprints. The Demon was famously so over-engineered for drag racing that, in stock condition with a lot of prep time and perfect conditions, it can do a sub-10-second quarter-mile, which is too fast for cars without roll cages and parachutes, according to the NHRA. The ban was lifted in 2022 when the NHRA moved that threshold down to 9 seconds, so Dodge went and made an even faster Demon that can do an 8.9 second quarter mile with 1,025 horsepower because it runs on corn. But we haven't got that one. Still, have you seen Lone Wolf McQuade?
Can't outrun me, Ranger. I've got superchargers.
There's this famous scene where Chuck Norris, upon being taunted, turns on his supercharger and says,
Supercharge this.
and when you put your foot to the floor in the Demon, it makes such a lovely whine that I can't stop myself from saying supercharge this every time I stomp on the throttle and overtake a slower car. It's good fun. Like Lone Wolf McQuade, a fun movie. It's got David Carradine as the villain. If you prefer the Deutsche Tourenwagen Meisterschaft, you may prefer this. The Mercedes-Benz 190e 2.5 16 Evolution 2 returns to Gran Turismo with its absurdly large wing. You can try and turn it into a race car yourself, but that doesn't mean it will be able to compete with the Alfa Romeo 155 DTM we've got in the game. They'll have to re-add the race car sometime and bring back the Opel Calibra. But how about... hold on a minute. The Tesla Model 3. Now, before the game launched, in February 2022, there was a trailer comparing Daijiro Yoshihara's real racing Tesla Model 3 that was sponsored by Gran Turismo at the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb against Super GT, playing Gran Turismo 7, driving a 2012 Tesla Model S, the one that was in GT6 at launch as well. Bit of an awkward comparison, but there is an explanatory note: the Tesla Model 3 is not available in GT7, to be provided in a future update. So this may be the future update. It is a Tesla Model 3 Performance. It was released in a future update, 20 months after the trailer, but it's not the car from the trailer, but it is a Tesla Model 3 and it has been provided. Well, the Tesla Model 3 Performance of 2022 is a deceptively fast and fun little car, although I don't especially like driving EVs in Gran Turismo, mainly due to the lack of gears and not knowing how much to slow down when I get to a bend. It's just a little bit terrifying. It's not just EVs, cars with CVTs are the same. I'm still extremely curious as to whether we'll ever see Daiyoshi Hara's Model 3 and Pikes Peak, which it raced up. But if there's one thing that's quieter than an electric car, it's Polyphony Digital. Oh, and you may note the touchscreen is stuck in Martian GPS mode, which is a real Tesla feature for some reason. On the 6th car of Spec 2, it's a Nismo 400R. Wow. So, this is not like other R33 GTRs, because it has neither of those words in its name. It is legally not a Nissan at all. Nismo built this of their own will and sold it for 3 times the price of a GTR, because it's made of carbon fiber bits, which was very unusual in the mid-90s, and it's very powerful. It has 400 horsepower, 400R. And thanks to the collector's market, it costs 1.8 million credits now. Such is the nature of the collector car market. Things are wild. Things are nuts. It's ridiculous. It costs as much as an average home in Sydney. Anyway, because it's a 1995 400R, that means it technically hasn't been seen since GT2, where it was listed as the Nismo 400R preceding model. Only major difference between this and the 1996 car that was in GT4, 5 and 6 is that the 1995 car has a lower red line. And you can't race modify it in GT2. Thank you for telling me that, Gran Turismo Wiki. It's great to have cars formerly exclusive to the PS1 Gran Turismos returning in GT7, but all 3 so far have been Skylines, and not the Daihatsu Opti Aero Down Beaks that everyone so clearly wants. This is that reference flying over your head. 7th and final dwarf, a car, is the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. The new one, the 992.1, if you like, GT3 RS, as featured in the Gran Turismo movie. It has an active rear wing, which you can play with a button. Isn't that fun? Less fun news, the Strassen version is now 10 million credits, up from 9 million, up from once upon a time 3 million. The people pricing these cars, they don't like us. But this was the same month Jet Rider came to PS4 and 5. Oh yeah! It does not get better than this. Spec 2 is much more than just Lake Louise and 7 cars. There's features to bring more fulfillment and joy to our in-game car lives, like weekly challenges, ticket-based incentives to replay events from the campaign for extra money, and occasional special event races that are only available for 1 week. Then there's master licenses, a feature I was not expecting at all. There are now 5 more licenses, so 50 more license tests. But you don't need the licenses for any event. You don't need the IB, IARS licenses for any event anyway, but still, these master licenses now give you more challenges with more leaderboards to compete with your friends. So I can say that I am the very best at Master B8. Next feature, replacing meeting places, is the new paddock mode. So there's a different UI for off-track chat, and when you're on track, because there's a paddock for each course in the game, you'll see that paddock is basically the same as meeting places was, which is basically the same as lobbies, except there's no lobby owner, nobody sets the rules, nobody can start a race. Every paddock invariably becomes bring what you want /chill /hot lap /roleplay. all at the same time, in a text-based chat room. There's another feature, returning from the 90s, that I did not expect at all: 4-player split screen. Well, other games had it in the 90s. This is the first Gran Turismo to ever have 4-player split screen. And 3-player split screen, of course, that's implied, right? I'm looking at you, Trackmania 2020, that has 2 and 4 and exclusively not 3-player split screen, just to annoy me and my siblings. It can be a bit chaotic, especially when player 2 and 3 have almost no Gran Turismo experience, but it can be a lot of fun too. You just have to think of a good scenario. There are thousands of ideas out there. Here I decided to have a 3-way Trool, a Mini against 2 K cars. They're all about fair, and this worked out wonderfully. We were able to line up the cars for a drag race. You have so many more possibilities now that you can play with 3 or 4 players on one TV. GT7 has just become one of the best party games on PS5. You'll need to be a good host and prepare your car list in advance by adding cars you want to use to your favourites, since there are very few rentals. Oh, and the menu freezes sometimes. Racing in multiples of the same car is probably the easiest way to go about things. If you want to have equal cars in different colours, you need to buy multiple cars in different colours, add them all to your favourites list, and in this case you'd have to equip them all with snow tyres. It makes a very strong argument for having more open arcade car selection, like Gran Turismo 4, or every Forza Motorsport game. But on that point, the latest Forza Motorsport, the one released a month before this update, has no split screen at all, and probably never will. Forza is a game to review another time. For now, I am just thoroughly impressed with GT7's 3-player split screen and how well it runs. 2160p at nearly 100 FPS. Until Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled gets a PS5 patch, this is the only 4-player split screen racing game that matters on the console. Playing with 2 players is fine too, but using only 2/4 of your screen just feels like such a waste. I should note there is apparently a bug that's always making player 1's car slightly faster than the others, but I've never had a serious enough race to tell. What else? You can now do longer exposures in photo mode, up to 1 second. There's some more scapes and the dashboard thing that I keep forgetting about. So Spec 2 is huge. The notes didn't even mention all the additional engine swaps. Why, yes, you can take the MotoGP engine out of a Honda 2 and 4 and put it into a classic S800 or the new S660. Hey, you like One Guy Midnight? Here's an easier way to make a Devil Z. Just LS swap a 240Z. Oh, we're all going to... The Porsche Cayman can now have a blueprinted and bored out twin-turbo Maverick engine from that Maverick show car, and it's no longer a Cayman. It's a crocodile. When your Porsche has 1,200 horsepower, what it needs is more horsepower. There are a few new events in this update of the hot chili variety, the ones that are actually difficult. One of these, the Clubman Cup Plus at Special Stage Route X, is a slipstream battle in the vein of the classic Like the Wind events that have been in the game for a long time. This would be very hard to win in most cars, but the Porsche Crocodile does so with its arms tied behind its back. I mean, if you take the ballast off and all the restrictors I needed to get into the PP limit, it has a top speed in the 460s. Possibly the 470s with better tuning. Maybe even more. Long live the Porsche Crocodile, king of speed. And remember, when you're doing 468, you need at least 550 meters to stop, so don't do that in a school zone. Here's an amazing new quality of life feature. The event directory. All the game's races, but you don't have to go to each track to see what races are there. They're organised by series, like they were in every other Gran Turismo game. Why did this critical, sensible organisation feature take almost 2 years? I don't know. But great. Now you can actually see what you've completed. Progress only counts if you win. It gets better. Huge bonus payouts for those at a high collector level, and for circuit experience completion. Up to a 400% increase for your arcade and custom race payouts, which is a very big step in the right direction. You can now make events that pay pretty decently. As before, there's a sharp drop-off in payouts for events over an hour long, but you can now make some pretty decent events with very decent payouts, just not quite as good as the best grinding methods. Another feature is a new, more permanent implementation of Sophie. Sophie 2.0 is available for arcade races on some tracks. I would be more excited about this, but the problem is that being arcade races, the car selection is random and the laps are very short, so you can't have as good a race against Sophie as before. It's impressive that I'm racing 19 Sophie agents, but they all seem like the mild Sophie Vert, not the crazy Sophie Violette. There are other unexpected limitations. There are a lot of cars you can't use with Sophie mode, but it won't tell you which ones they are. The cart is among them, after I spent all this time making a Snake of Bacon cart. You could have a more engaging Sophie experience by racing in one of the set racing categories like Group 4. But it's hard to have a good Group 4 race in only 4 laps of Tsukuba, without any options for more laps or fuel usage or tyre wear. It's really hard to get much benefit out of Sophie 2.0. I had a pretty good race at Deep Forest, but I wanted it to be longer, so I could really test my skills against these fairly smart opponents. The biggest limitation of all is that you can only race Sophie on 9 of the game's 115 track layouts. Not on the Nürburgring and not on Bathurst. Not yet. As with the Spec 2 updates for Gran Turismo 5 and Sport, they changed the intro to reflect all the stuff they've added, to show it off and say, look, you couldn't drive on snow at launch, and now you can. Look at this Corolla. We've done our job, the game's updated and finished now. No, you may have that fear, but I'd say it's unfounded. Already at the end of 2023, they were showing off their cars for the next year and adding a little bit more Christmas music. And a really catchy jazz fusion version of Scarborough Fair. Props to the Gran Turismo sound team. This is some great new menu music. The last gameplay change of 2023 after Spec 2 was just an emergency patch to stop people from making too much money in custom race mode. For a little while there, certain slow cars with engine swaps to make them fast could race against certain very fast race cars with tunes that make them undrivable and make players over 4 million credits per hour. So that warranted an emergency patch. And yet the developers are still very reluctant to add more than 4 events that pay 1 million credits per hour. And that is... I'm not really sure why, but it leads into the final section.
The answer.
The title of this video is a question. Renewed hope? So the ending of this video should be an answer to that very short question, a very long answer. Hopefully the last 103 minutes of evidence will help us figure that out. I've covered, to the best of my ability, all of the updates to Gran Turismo 7 from a 25th anniversary update to Spec 2 and all of the content and features therein. I'm reviewing the game, and I know I've already reviewed it 3 times already, but because it keeps changing I need to keep digging deeper. And things certainly have changed that could affect my hopes for the game's future. Every car they add makes the game better, of course, and every track is like a whole new world to explore. As driving simulators, Gran Turismo games have always had theoretically infinite gameplay as a sandbox for testing and racing cars. And I've spent hundreds of hours in GT7 just time trialing cars for fun. I play it less and less each month, mostly because I'm getting bored of the time trial, time and weather presets. I don't know why this game has to have such amazing time and weather simulation systems that you can't control. Except a little bit in custom race mode. If I could have custom time and weather in time trials, that would be a huge improvement for me, but not everyone. What does affect everyone who plays GT7, no matter how you play it, as a car photography game, as a party game, as an online multiplayer ranked experience, or just as a single-player traditional car RPG, what affects you is credits and how you get them. Because without credits, you can't have the cars. And if you can't have the cars, you can't play the game, so you need to get the credits. And this game is not designed to give you credits. Whether you want to blame it on incompetence, shrewd malice, or just a shocking lack of care, the Gran Turismo 7 campaign is a very short experience that does not give you nearly enough credits to experience all the game's content. If you want to have these cars and use these cars, you'll need over 500 million credits. And that number is always increasing as every month there are more cars to buy, more duplicate cars you can buy if you want to experience engine swaps, and worst of all, inflation for realism. At the same time, each month only adds about as many events as they add cars, and these are little 10-minute races that hardly pay you anything and mostly serve as a holder for a speech bubble about the car. The grind has been ameliorated slightly by some of the changes in Spec 2. Weekly challenges and increased payouts for custom races let you make more money than before doing at least something that isn't the same 4 events that were added in April 2022, which still arbitrarily pay more than every other event 2 years down the line. At any time, Polyphony Digital could actually put some resources towards fixing the in-game economy, adding an end game rather than just a beginning, a middle, and an interminable grind. But there's no incentive for PD or Sony to do so. The game has already sold well and made lots of money. It would only get a little bit of positive word of mouth from being made better. And in this perverse world where you can buy credits for real money, making the game reward your time is actively disincentivized. I have hope for more fun cars and tracks to play with in time trial mode. I have no hope for the process of acquiring them to be fun because of greed. In conclusion, yes, let's breathe for a bit, turn the stove down, and let things simmer, because I know I've dropped a lot of words on you, and it's time to finish this off. Gran Turismo 7 is a game that I love to play from a series that I hold very dear to me, and will judge harshly because I love it so much, and play it so much more than I should. I've been driving around Trial Mountain for 23 years, I can't just stop. GT7 has beautiful graphics, wonderful physics, the controls are so fluent, it's a joy to play. Except for the game design. Holding it to the standards of the first 4 Gran Turismo games is difficult because of rose-tinted glasses and the fog of nostalgia for games that I played in primary school. I know if I think hard about it, Gran Turismo 4 also had very dull grinding. The amount of times I went around Costa di Amalfi to win one rally car so I could sell it to get money in that game. That's not good design either, but Gran Turismo 4 had ambition. It was vast. In Gran Turismo 5, while it had a lot less events in its campaign, it had some really special features like NASCAR and WRC. GT6 had a terrible mobile-inspired campaign with a star system, but it at least had the moon and cool stuff like that. GT Sport was a game that had a campaign stapled onto it after the fact, and it served no purpose because it was an esports focused game. My point is, GT7 is the game after GT Sport. After this long continuing downward spiral ambition, they must have held a meeting and said, look, we have to make a big single-player GT game for the fans, it's the least we could do. But it seems they then spent years and dozens of millions of dollars on R&D to figure out what the least they could do was. And they determined they could get away with making a game with less than 200 races in it and sprinkling in a few more each month, alongside a couple of cars and maybe 2 tracks a year if we're lucky. And well, the cars and tracks are so good we are lucky. And I'll keep on playing it casually, and I'll see you for episode 5 in early 2025. Snake of Bacon signing out.